Hey guys, Jason Emmett here with Rewind Toys, and look, no lie, Jurassic Park is one of my all-time favorite films. I absolutely love it, and the books as well. I've read the first book 3 times. The franchise itself, well, I mean, it's had its ups and downs, but the pure nostalgia of those first few films, it's just perfection for me. With that being said, there are those occasional toy lines that, when compared to their source material, don't always make perfect sense. And today is one of those days, and it also kind of isn't. Now, we're going to get into it more as we talk about toys that were 65 million years in the making. The original Jurassic Park toy line. So the whole story behind the Jurassic Park book and films, it's kind of a crazy one. In 1990, Michael Crichton releases his novel, Jurassic Park, which, in all fairness, started off as a screenplay that he planned to sell. We'll get into some of that. Anyway, this book tells the tale of a billionaire philanthropist who hires a team of scientists to clone dinosaurs so that he can create a dino-themed amusement park. Things go awry, as they often do, when a small team of scientists come to evaluate the park. The dinosaurs break free, literal chaos ensues, and we get an epic fantasy-like film. So like I said, there's an entire story regarding Michael Crichton first writing a screenplay and having the rights available for sale for $1.5 million before he decided to turn that screenplay into a novel. But essentially, Steven Spielberg, who had worked with Michael Crichton before, well, he caught wind of the novel, and he let Crichton know that he wanted to make the movie. He wasn't the only one. There were some other really big-name producers and directors vying for this property. I mean, the likes of James Cameron were going after this. But in the end, Michael Crichton decided that Steven Spielberg was probably the best fit for the film. So the rights to the film ended up being purchased even before the novel was released. Now, it took time to figure everything out. Remember, this was technically before most CGI effects, were happening in films. We'd had some smaller ones, but nothing to the scale of what we were about to get. But in 1993, well, the film finally graced the silver screen. So with that background in mind, we're going to take you to Kenner Toys and a man named Tim Effler. Now, Effler's job was to find lines the company could license and turn into the next big it toy. Now, he'd read an article regarding a Jurassic Park film way back in 1990 when all the hubbub started. And he thought, hey, that would be a really, really interesting property. So Kenner bid for the license. They got it, and now they were in business. The thing is, Effler wanted something different than the dinosaurs he had seen up to this point. So he took a little bit of inspiration from G.I. Joe figures for the humans, although they're not nearly as articulate. But it was really the dinosaurs that he knew he needed to focus his attention on if he wanted these toys to hit. It's really funny for me to think about this whole story today because I actually collect the Jurassic Park line, and we are definitely going to be discussing the human figures. But for just a minute, I want to focus on those dinosaurs. Now, a few other important names when it comes to this line are Larry Selman, who worked on the amazing box art, and Brian Franzak, who was the illustrator for those cool little collector cards that came with the dinosaurs. One thing you'll notice with the action figures is that all of their weapons and vehicles are non-lethal, and this was completely by design. They didn't want to make the humans appear to be trying to kill these creatures. Very important for that first film where the intention was never to make a monster movie. They never wanted to vilify the dinosaurs. So with the dinosaurs, it was decided to create figure mock-ups that featured textured skin. We wanted roaring dinosaur sound effects, and we wanted moving action parts. So they go to present these figures to the bigwigs at Kenner and also Steven Spielberg himself, who I guess had a little bit of say on what the final characters looked like. Now, here's a really cool fact. When designing the toys, they also designed a logo mock-up based around the book cover. Now, Steven Spielberg, he sits down to see these toys, and he sees this logo design, and he absolutely loves it. That logo design ended up being what Spielberg used for the final film. Yeah, the iconic image we all know and love today owes its creation to the toy designers. So, much like the film itself, the toy's production life started before there was an actual film, which likely played a part in why some of the human figures looked so drastically different than their real-life counterparts, especially in Series 1. So the head sculpts for these figures was actually happening before the film was released, which is why we got, what we got. Honestly, though, a few aren't too bad, even if a couple of body proportions are way off. The first series had 5 figures. There was Dr. Grant, Dr. Sattler, Muldoon, Tim Murphy, and Dennis Nedry. And I will say Muldoon and Nedry, especially Nedry, were pretty much just name alone. There was no real resemblance to their counterparts in the movie. Now, each of the figures came with a mini dinosaur and one of those non-lethal weapons we talked about earlier. So let's now talk about the dinosaurs, and let's start with the smaller ones. Each of these came with a dino strike action. The slashing jaw raptor, the venom-spraying Dilophosaurus, the clamping jaw Dimetrodon, the bendy Celephasis, and the Pteranodon, which featured wings that flapped and dino-striking jaws. Next up were the deluxe electronic dinosaurs, a large roaring Dilophosaurus and a screeching Velociraptor. Then we got the big ones, the big dinos, the Junior T-Rex, the Stegosaurus, the Triceratops, and then the full-size T-Rex. Now, the Junior T-Rex made a lot more sense for the guys creating these when you take the book into effect. We don't really have a Junior T-Rex in the films, but there is one in the book. So again, we're seeing where the fact that the film hadn't come out yet, things were being influenced by the original source material, which for lovers of the book and the film, this is a really cool thing because we kind of get the best of both worlds. In that first series, we received 3 vehicles, 2 of which I want very much badly. The Bush Devil Tracker, which is pretty much the Jeep we see in the film, and the Jungle Explorer, which is the rover we see in the film. Also, they had the Captor Copter. And last, but most definitely not least, we get the one thing that I most want out of this whole series, I think most collectors do, but is the most expensive and hardest to find complete, and that is the Command Compound. I mean, just look at it. It's a thing of pure beauty. So oddly enough, we didn't get Ian Malcolm in Series 1, but we did get him with the Series 2 figures. We got another version of Tim, we got another version of Sattler, and another version of Nedry and Muldoon. But these sculpts, at least facially on Nedry, were a lot closer to the originals. Tim and Sattler are much closer to the originals, and overall they look better, although they changed Ellie's clothes, which is weird because the first series actually fit closer to the movie. I don't know, but they did it, and I own them, so it doesn't matter. They also gave us the 3 Dino Tracker figures, Sergeant T-Rex Turner, Harpoon Harrison, and Jaws Jackson. They also gave us 3 evil raiders named Skinner, Dr. Snare, and there was supposed to be one named Scrap Davis, but from what I know and from what I've read and come to understand, he never actually made it to market. Now, maybe there are prototypes out there. I really can't say. If so, I've never actually seen one. Anyway, these dudes had absolutely nothing to do with the book or the film or anything. They were just created, I guess, to give us some bad guys. I don't know. As far as the mini dinosaurs, and guys, I'm going to screw up some of these names, so if you want to attack me in the comments, you can, but it is what it is. We got another Dilophosaurus. We got another Velociraptor. We got a Lycanops. We got a Tantryphaeus, a Pachy, an Ornithosuchus. An Ornithosuchus. I got it. Just took me a minute. And there were a couple more that hit after that. There were 2 Dino Screamers and 5 large dinosaurs. Now, saying their names is even more difficult than the ones I just butchered, so we're probably not going to do it, but we'll just show you the pictures here. We got the Strike Cycle, the Jungle Runner, the Capture Cruiser, and 2 canceled repaints of the Explorer and the Bush Devil. We're seeing they never actually made it out, which is kind of a bummer because they're kind of cool looking, but I still prefer the originals because they look more like the originals. So just a few things. When the Lost World film came out, it also had 2 series of toys that were released along with the film. And then after that, there was another line called Chaos Effect that landed in 1998. There was also the Night Hunter series planned, but that one never actually got released. Now, those lines exist out there. Some of them are very cool, but today I am focused on Jurassic Park. So we're not going to go diving too far into the other films and the other toys. As for the OG line, there were always 3 figures I couldn't figure out why they didn't make: Hammond, Gennaro, and Lex. I mean, seriously, Lex got really short-riffed in this, if you want my opinion. Now, I had read some stuff speculating that Kenner wanted to keep the focus on male characters because they had a mostly male fan base, and I suspect that's partially true, but I also read a rumor that Ariana Richards, who played Lex in the film, that her parents might not have released permission for her likeness on that original toy line. We really don't know for sure. It could be a little bit of A and a little bit of B, but it's a bummer that we never got a Lex figure in those originals, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I kind of get Gennaro. I kind of get Skipping the Lawyer, but why not Hammond? Like, Hammond just made perfect sense. Now, later down the line, we have had figures created of these characters, and they don't look bad as compared to some of the originals. So if you just wanted them just for aesthetic purposes, you could pick them up and they would look great. So to my collectors out there, originally the 5 figures were released on card with a black background behind the bubble. Now, after around a month or so in production, that was changed to the sunset background. That's the one you're going to see the most. Now, that means those black cards are the very first run and are also a little bit more rare. As far as those dinosaurs, well, the Jurassic Park toy line dinosaurs majorly changed dinosaurs and creature toys in the toy industry, and the molds are pretty much still used today. As for the humans, they weren't perfect, but I dig them. I can't say I'm after every figure in this line, although in the end I probably will be, but that's not where I'm at right now. And it is also one of the few lines I don't mind collecting loose, again, for right now, because in all honesty, the figures, and especially the dinosaurs in box, are not cheap. Are any of you out there Jurassic Park collectors? If so, drop me a comment down below. Or maybe you're just a huge fan and you always sort of appreciated the toys. Drop me a comment down below. I love the interaction. I love the toy conversations. Make sure before you leave, you go over and slash that subscribe button. And remember, when it comes to awesome retro figures and retro toys and cool nostalgia stuff, the hunt, well, that's half the fun.